And to help us assess Japan's defense white paper, we speak to Stephen Nagy. He's Professor of Politics and International Studies at International Christian University. He's speaking to us from Budapest. Professor Nagy, this is a yearly white paper from Japan. What we see this year does not break, in essence, from what we have seen in previous years, or does it?
That's exactly right, Wei Su. Every year, the Japanese Ministry of Defense releases a white paper on the defense challenges that Japan is facing. And it looks at it from the perspective of defense, because Japan has what's called Article 9 of this constitution, meaning that it's given up the right to use force as an instrument of foreign policy. So its assessment is about defense, how it can manage the challenges. And what we see year by year, 2024 to 2025, is a real focus on China's expanding military presence across the region, the challenges of North Korea, and increased cooperation of Russia within the Indo-Pacific region, and how the Ukraine front and the Ukraine war is connected to the Indo-Pacific security challenges.
But the larger region, so globally, certainly within the region as well, there are significant changes. Oh, there's a change in administration in the White House, certainly between last year and this year. So this white paper, does that take that into account?
Well, I do think that this white paper is also a message to the Trump administration that Japan is taking its security seriously, that it identifies the same challenges the White House, that is China's revisionist behavior within the Indo-Pacific region, its interest in pushing the United States out from what's called the first island chain and the second island chain, its interest in reunifying with Taiwan as quickly as possible, its assertive behavior in the South China Sea, and lastly, and I think importantly, North Korea's increased cooperation with Russia in terms of sending troops to Ukraine, but also that critical technology that we think Russia is providing to North Korea to refine its intercontinental missile systems, as well as other missile systems that can be used to attack Japan, but also U.S. bases within the region in Japan, South Korea, and of course Guam and other places in the region.
We'll get to North Korea in a moment. I'd like to push a little further on this. If this is a message to the White House, which right now is very focused on seeing or making sure that each country is doing enough for its own defense, and also that each country, as an ally, as Japan is, can contribute to U.S. defense as well. If this white paper is delivering this message to Mr. Trump in the White House, do you see it having managed to do that?
Well, ultimately, the White House would like Japan and other allies to spend much more in the region. Elbridge Colby, this Deputy Secretary of State, has put forward and came to the region and asked, whether Japan and Australia would actually do something if there was a Taiwan contingency. And they want to get some clarity, transparency, because for the United States, if Japan and Australia and other allies are not going to step up to the plate and support the United States defending Taiwan and ultimately defending the interests of both Japan and Australia, but also other states within the region, then the question is, from the United States standpoint, why should we be involved? And, that's the cold calculus of the Trump administration. The Trump administration has moved away from, I think, those concrete security guarantees that previous administrations have given, without those partners giving the same concrete commitments to helping the United States on some of the challenges within the region. And I think that is the key message that Japan is sending to the United States, while at the same time sending a message to China that it hasn't deviated from the one China policy, that it encourages peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits. And ultimately, the question of Taiwan and China needs to be decided by the Chinese people and the Taiwanese people themselves through peaceful dialogue. And in that sense, the white paper is a message for the United States and for China that Japan is willing to commit to its own defense, to helping the United States, but also preserving peace and stability within the region and preserving the one China policy.
Mr. Nagy, on that question that Mr. Colby posed to Japan and Australia, what will you do if China should invade Taiwan? from my reading, neither Japan nor Australia gave it that transparent, clear answer that Washington might have asked for. This is one part of the question. The second is, if Japan wants to give a clear answer on what it's doing for its own defense, as well as in aid of the United States, it might have done so with a larger number in terms of pledge for defense spending, certainly by 2027. Did we see that in this white paper? Final question.
So the first question is ultimately very difficult to answer. What would you do if there was some kind of Taiwan contingency? And it really depends. If it's a blockade, if the Chinese decide to use cyber attacks, if the Chinese actually go through a full-fledged military invasion, these are all different equations. And I think the Japanese and the Australians have made the right choice to focus on strategic ambiguity, saying it depends, and not making any kind of public commitment. These are the kinds of discussions that go behind closed doors. On your second question, has Japan done enough? Well, in 2022, it committed to doubling its defense spending to 2% of GDP by 2027. It's got to about 1.8% in very creative ways. We call it creative accounting in my circles. And we don't really think it's going to be possible to get to that 2% unless that creative accounting continues. There's a lot more to be done in terms of spending, in terms of defense capabilities and the capabilities to deal with the challenges within the region. But at the same time, there's a lot more to be done in terms of diplomacy, engagement, and creating the spaces for dialogue with the challenges and the stakeholders within the region. I think Japan and its defense white paper stresses both deterrence, but also engagement and diplomacy. And that's going to be important for peace and stability in the region and dealing with the challenges moving forth, but also seizing opportunities.
Oh, thanks so much for joining us this evening. Stephen Nagy, Professor of Politics and International Studies at International Christian University.